Have you ever gazed into the deep night sky and felt the steady, eternal pulse of the earth beneath your feet? Now, imagine a creation of humankind, so colossal that it could, by its own might, slow the rotation of this planet by even a single microsecond. This is not a plot from science fiction, but a miracle and a nightmare etched into the heartland of China, the Three Gorges Dam. When 40 billion tons of water were forcibly raised 175 meters into the sky, this immense potential energy not only forever altered a river, but also changed the angular momentum of the entire planet. In China, a great dragon that had surged for millions of years found its throat seized by a concrete great wall stretching across the horizon. This dragon, named the Yangtze, was once the cradle of Chinese civilization, nourishing the fertile lands and countless lives on its banks with its endless milk. It was also once a ferocious beast, whose periodic floods could devour millions of lives at a time. It has brought light and tranquility to hundreds of millions, yet it has also forced over 1 million people to leave their ancestral homes, condemning countless creatures and ancient relics to a watery grave. It stands against monstrous floods, yet it also hangs like a sword of Damocles, perpetually invoking the ultimate fear of a potential collapse. Today, we will cut through the fog to confront this behemoth that stands at the center of praise and condemnation. On the vast map of China, the Three Gorges Dam is undoubtedly one of the wildest imaginings in the history of human engineering. Its scale transcends the mere category of architecture, entering the realm of geography. Its 2.3-kilometer length and 185-meter height are but its skeleton. Its flesh and blood are composed of over 28 million cubic meters of concrete, enough to build a 2-lane highway from Beijing to London, and 510,000 tons of steel, enough to construct nearly 70 Eiffel Towers. However, these cold numbers fall far short of describing the sheer difficulty of this war. When the project officially began in 1994, a massive army of 40,000 builders faced one of the world's most unpredictable rivers. The first major challenge was the river diversion, how to clear out a patch of land for the dam's heart without interrupting the livelihoods of hundreds of millions downstream. Engineers adopted a near-mythical strategy. They first built a temporary stone wall on one side of the Yangtze, forcing the torrential waters into the other half of the riverbed, creating a narrower, more turbulent new channel. On this temporarily conquered dry riverbed, workers poured the first section of the dam's foundation day and night. During this time, the Yangtze's fury, flood peaks reaching tens of thousands of cubic meters per second, constantly tested the limits of the cofferdam. This was not merely construction. It was a continuous struggle against the forces of nature. On November 6, 2002, with the first batch of the dam body and generator units installed, a historic moment arrived. With a deafening explosion, the temporary cofferdam was breached, and the long-suppressed waters of the Yangtze roared through the dam's spillway deep outlets for the first time, as if a great beast had finally acknowledged the authority of its new master. After 17 years and a cost of over 200 billion RMB, this concrete leviathan finally stood tall. One of its core missions is to be a tireless green heart. Its 34 massive hydro generator units have a staggering total installed capacity of 22.5 gigawatts. What does this mean? It exceeds the total installed capacity of all power plants in Taiwan. Under ideal conditions, its annual power generation surpasses 100 billion kilowatt-hours, enough to light up half of Germany. This is equivalent to saving nearly 50 million tons of raw coal and reducing carbon dioxide emissions by almost 100 million tons each year. Of course, power generation is only part of its mission, and perhaps not even the most important one. The primary goal of the Three Gorges project was to place a sturdy set of reins on the flood threat that has hung over the heads of hundreds of millions in the middle and lower reaches of the Yangtze. The history of Yangtze floods is a tragic story written in blood and tears. In the 20th century alone, there were several devastating, catastrophic floods. The once-in-a-century disaster of 1931 is still chilling to recall. It is estimated that the flood caused between 3.7 and 4 million direct and indirect deaths, with over 50 million people affected. The three towns of Wuhan were submerged for nearly 3 months, and the surging waters nearly inundated the government buildings in Nanjing. Now, with the Three Gorges acting as a giant regulating valve, the Yangtze's temper has become much more docile. Like a massive sponge, it lowers its water level before the rainy season arrives, freeing up over 22 billion cubic meters of flood control storage capacity, equivalent to the volume of 1,500 West Lakes in Hangzhou. When flood peaks from upstream arrive, the dam holds the water securely behind it, releasing it downstream at a controlled, gentle pace. At the same time, the raised water level has completely transformed the shipping landscape of the upper Yangtze. The once treacherous Sichuan riverways were filled with hidden reefs and dangerous shoals, with turbulent currents that were daunting. Today, the water surface has been raised by 100 meters, allowing 10,000-ton fleets to sail directly from Shanghai to the inland mountain city of Chongqing, reducing shipping costs by over 35%. To allow these steel giants to cross the 180-meter-high mountain ridge, engineers designed two solutions. One is a dual-line 5-level ship lock system, like a water staircase, which takes a ship about 4 hours to pass through. The other is an engineering marvel known as the Three Gorges ship lift, the world's largest ship elevator. It can lift a 3,000-ton vessel, along with the body of water carrying it, 113 meters vertically in just 40 minutes. The economic benefits have been explosive. In 2023, the freight volume passing through the Three Gorges hub reached a record 172 million tons, more than 6 times the volume before the dam was built. To make room for this massive reservoir, more than 600 kilometers of land along the Yangtze River were designated as a submerged zone. This meant that 13 cities, 140 county towns, 1,352 villages, and over 600 industrial and mining enterprises would be sunk to the bottom of the river. What followed was the largest and most complex resettlement project in the history of water conservancy. Approximately 1.4 million people were forced to bid farewell to the homes their families had inhabited for generations. The government provided compensation for the displaced and planned new resettlement towns. The official narrative is filled with optimistic stories of migrants starting new lives and achieving prosperity. However, the reality is far more complex than the propaganda. Many migrants were allocated barren new land or plots far from water sources, rendering their agricultural skills useless in the new environment. The infrastructure in the new towns lagged, and job opportunities were scarce. The deeper pain lay in the cultural and emotional rupture. Ancestral homes, clan temples, and family graves, the roots that sustained family memory and identity, were left forever beneath the cold river water. For the 1.4 million who lived through it, the Three Gorges may be a national glory, but for them as individuals, it was a parting song woven with loss, confusion, and anguish. The dam's impact on the Yangtze ecosystem is structural and irreversible. First, it acts as a sharp blade, severing the migratory paths of many aquatic species. The former king of the Yangtze, the Beiji dolphin, and the living fossil, the Chinese paddlefish, were declared functionally extinct shortly after the dam's completion. Although shipping pollution and overfishing were also culprits, the Three Gorges Dam was undoubtedly the final straw. Finally, we must confront the most unsettling and fascinating question of all. What if it fails? Should this colossal barrier holding back 40 billion tons of water ever rupture, the consequences would be of biblical proportions. Simulations show that a 100-meter-high wall of water would sweep downstream at nearly the speed of sound, raising the city of Yicheng, the first in its path, to the ground within hours. The flood crest would then surge towards the middle and lower plains, bringing catastrophic annihilation to major cities along the river like Wuhan and Nanjing, leaving tens of millions, or even 100 million people with nowhere to escape. The Yangtze's middle and lower plains, China's economic heartland and breadbasket, would instantly be transformed into a vast, living hell on earth, with a chain reaction sufficient to set the entire nation's economy back by decades. The story of the Three Gorges Dam is far from over. It is like a mirror, reflecting humanity's ambition to transform nature, its wisdom, and its unavoidable arrogance and its costs. Like Egypt's Aswan Dam and America's Hoover Dam, it is a product of a specific era's national will, bringing immense benefits while also leaving deep scars on the environment and on humanity. It is not a project that can be simply judged as good or bad. It is a complex polyhedron, revealing different sheens and shadows from every angle. It forces us to contemplate an eternal dilemma. On the path to a better future, what price are we willing to pay? Are the sacrifices submerged by the tide of the era truly worth it?